The tractor died halfway up the lane, so I arrived at the barn with a wrench, a mood, and hay in my hair. The sliding door was ajar, which was wrong. Wind doesn't leave doors thoughtful like that. I eased it open and found a stranger sitting on my feed bin like she owned sunrise. Cloaked to the calves, mane bright hair spilling over one shoulder, ears flicking with the same rhythm as my anxiety. She looked like a starlit horse decided to try bipedal and nailed it. "You're late," she said, as if we'd scheduled this. Her voice had the distant echo of cathedral bells and the immediate problem of a trespasser. "I was arguing with a carburetor," I said. "It won." "You are my sanctuary," she said, touching the barn wall like it would vouch for her. "And my groom." "Sanctuary I get," I said. "Coyotes like the chicken coop. But I don't usually get called anyone's groom unless there's cake." She tilted her head, ears angling to curious. "You are human. Strong forearms. Capable hands. This is a groom." "Where I come from, a groom brushes the horse and shovels the aftermath." "Yes," she said, serene as a contract. "Husband." I blinked. That escalated fast. She slid off the bin, and the cloak whispered straw. Up close she was all fine edges and soft eyes, nose a little too delicate for the planet's sense of humor. A leather satchel hung at her hip with straps that looked like tack reinvented by someone who thought knots were a personality. Her scent was hay after rain and something metal sweet like ozone thinking of trouble. "My name is Sailvera," she said. "I invoked the right of first groom. I waited in your stable until you came. I declared you mine. Therefore you are." "Therefore," I repeated, trying it on and finding it a size too ridiculous. "Sail, do you mind if I shorten that before I trip over it?" "Sailvera," she said with a smile that could tip a ladder. "But you may try." "Sail," I said, and the name sat down between us like it had paid rent. We have a vocabulary gap. When you say groom, you mean? Yes. That's not a definition. It is both. She swung the satchel around, pulled out a flattened ring of bronze with etched sigils. Per the Articles of Sanctuary, the first being a claimant addresses as groom, while within the sanctuary walls, becomes groom. It is, how do your manuals say it, binding. Binding is a word we usually reserve for hay bales and long-term mistakes. I wiped my hands on my jeans and looked for the prank camera that the universe likes to hide in high beams. "Lady, I don't even have a suit." "You have a shovel," she said, looking past me to the tool rack with deep approval. "And you smell of work. This world chooses its mates by flowers and music. Mine chooses by capacity." "Capacity to what?" "Care," she said simply. "Brush. Feed. Stand. Stay." Something in my chest tried a new rhythm without asking permission. It was very inconvenient. I cleared my throat and grabbed the nearest safe subject, an old curry comb. "Okay. We'll start with brushing. It's what grooms do, non-binding edition." Her ears perked. "You accept my petition?" "I accept that your hair is about to start a union if we don't detangle it." She sat on the low rail like a queen taking a bench. I stood behind and dragged the comb gently through that mane, more hair than I've seen on any head that wasn't winning a county fair. The comb snagged. My fingers followed, teasing straw and field burrs free, careful as first aid. She shivered once, a ripple down the back that tugged a smile out of me. "You make good weather with your hands," she said. "I make acceptable weather," I said. "The tractor's still a storm." "Storms pass," she murmured. "A good groom remains." Still doing the double-meaning thing, I see. "It is an efficient language," she said, and leaned into the comb with a pleased sound that made my moral compass check its paperwork. "In my culture a groom must also speak softly to the coat. That's a rule." "A tradition," she corrected. "Tell it is shiny. Tell it is brave." I obliged. "Shiniest I've seen. Bravest in 3 counties. We'll stare down a thunderhead and win." She laughed, bright as a throne bit. "You are very good at this." "Thank you." I practice on animals with less litigation. She glanced at the rafters like they might object. You think I am not a person. I think I don't know what you are, and I'm trying not to be rude about it. She pointed at my broom. You are the person who keeps what you love clean. That's not how anyone has described me, I said. But I'll take the promotion. We fell into a rhythm: comb, tease, smooth, brush, breathe, joke. Outside, sparrows negotiated airspace. Inside, the bond changed from stranger to confessional. The way she sat, back straight, jaw lifted, said she'd taught herself how not to flinch. The way her tail, yes, tail, sleek and expressive, flicked when I got a stubborn tangle said she wasn't as invincible as the posture promised. What happens if I say no? I asked, because practical is my religion. To the binding. You already said yes, she said without turning. You brought the comb. Pretty sure we have different consent forms. The Lord doesn't ask for ink, she said, and for the first time a crack showed in the confidence. It asks for witness. I have mine. The barn was watching. Barns are snitches, I agreed. But I'm a human. We are very fond of opting in. You are also very fond of pretending you didn't, she said wryly, ears flicking as if tasting my hesitations. We ran here to avoid a wedding I did not choose. We. My pride, she said. My sense. My heart kept up reluctantly. You ran from a marriage, I said, letting the brush slow. Arranged. Assigned, she said, and the word thudded. Heir to heir. Stable to stable. We breed for alliances and call it poetry. I preferred a barn with dust and a human with jokes who does not turn his eyes into hooks. I set the comb down because my hands wanted to do something reckless like hold. I look because I'm listening, I said. Not because I'm measuring. Then your world is rarer than mine, she said. A soft chime from her satchel cut the moment. She pulled a palm-sized lens free. It threw a lattice of green across my chest like a net that had changed careers. Symbols crawled. They are near, she said. The searchers. If they find me before the right of first groom settles, I go back to the stall built of silk and iron. Silk and iron sounds expensive, I said. Also like an awful bed. It is. She stood and the cloak slid more willingly this time, hair falling in a proof of grooming. Will you shelter me? You chose me before I knew there was a choosing, I said. Seems greedy to say no now. Then you are my groom, she said again, not triumphant, relieved. Brush in one hand, shovel in the other, spine unbroken. That is the oath. We usually do rings, I said. But I can work with this. Heavy boots crunched outside. Voices tested the air for guilt. I moved without thinking, the way muscle memory draws a map. Flipped the light to shadow, slid the door halfway to make the gap look like weather, pointed at the empty feed barrel. She climbed in without argument, folding grace into a circle no body should manage. I dropped a burlap sack over the rim like a hat that didn't want attention. I stepped into the doorway just as a trio of silhouettes cut the sun. Their leader wore a uniform that tried to be both law and fashion and succeeded at neither. We're looking for a fugitive, he said in a voice for stages. Vulpine, marked with royal sigils, answers to sailbearer. Answers angrily or politely? I asked. Either, he said, not catching the hook. She is dangerous. Most girls in barns are, I said. Watch your step. The real danger is what's on your boots 10 minutes after you leave. He peered past me, nose curling at honest smells. We have tracking warrants. And I have hay, I said. We all bring something to the conversation. A soft sound under the sack, a withheld laugh, or a breath learning to be smaller. I moved to block the angle. The leader's gaze snagged on the broom, the shovel, the comb hanging from my back pocket like a confession. He smirked. Groom, are you? Among other things, I said. Mostly unpaid. He scanned the rafters with a device that squealed at spiders. If she comes here, if you shelter her, you'll be cited for interference. I smiled the slow farm smile that has confused city men since plows were gossip. I don't interfere, I said. I assist. With what? Runaways, I said, letting the word sit where it could do some good. Animals who jump fences. People who jump worse. His jaw worked around a lecture that didn't like the taste of its own teeth. He handed me a notice like it was contagious. If you see her, report. If, I said, and watched them go. Silence returned in pieces. I lifted the burlap and found Sailvera looking at me like I'd just showed her a hidden gate in a fence everyone else insisted was a wall. You didn't sell me, she said softly. You aren't a thing to sell, I said. Also, I dislike their boots. She climbed out, hair only slightly offended by the barrel. Then the right holds. Is there a cool-down period? I asked. A return policy. Only if the groom proves unworthy. Her eyes took me in from hay-dusted hair to scuffed boots. You are unkempt, stubborn, and your tractor loses arguments. These are promising signs. Glad to impress. I picked up the brush again because my hands needed work or they'd do hope. We'll make a plan. Hiding first, calling a lawyer second, fixing the tractor never. You will fix the tractor, she said, already stepping backward to the rail and presenting her hair like a contract renewal. A groom must master stubborn machinery. I thought that was you. It is both, she said. Comb, Dane. And speak softly to the coat. Tell it is safe. You're safe, I said, and if my voice sounded like an oath to both our worlds, well, some oaths don't wait for paperwork. The morning after the barrel incident smelled of hay, diesel, and scandal waiting to ripen. I went in expecting chores. Instead, she was already there, brushing her menere with the curry comb like it was a crown. You are late again, Groom, she said with the kind of smile that turns reprimands into flirting. I overslept, I said. Grooms don't punch time cards. Grooms attend their mates, she replied smoothly. Delay is neglect. Where I come from, delay is coffee before conversation. She considered this, then sniffed my mug. Bitter. You drink punishment willingly. Very Groom. It was too early for philosophy, but she looked at me like my opinion was legislation, so I leaned on the stool and tried not to stare too long. She caught it anyway. Your eyes do not flinch, she said. It makes me strong. That's not how anyone's described my eyes before, I muttered. Usually they say bloodshot. She ignored the joke. The ones outside will search again. They will ask if you harbor me. You must answer as a groom answers. And how is that? Without apology. We spent the morning in practice. I shoveled manure, she narrated it like a courtship ritual. He clears away decay to make room for growth. He endures stench for love. I threw straw at her ears. She let it stick and declared, adornment from my groom's hand. When I carried water buckets, she whispered, strength enough to carry burdens. Evidence of binding. I nearly dropped one from laughing. At noon she told me why she ran. My people arrange us like chess. I was to be queen to a stallion with teeth like trophies. His gaze weighed me. You weighed me differently. I wasn't weighing, I said quickly. I was trying to figure if you were serious. And you still doubt? She asked softly. Every second. Good. Doubt is the proof you chose, not obeyed. The words tangled in my chest. To cover it, I fixed her tack-like satchel straps, fumbling with alien knots that pulled tight the more you fought them. She watched, amused. A groom must master tack. I can barely master shoelaces, I grumbled, finally yanking the strap into submission. She leaned close and whispered, you mount problems well. My ears burned. She pretended not to notice. By evening, the barn was full of rumors brought by curious locals who thought she was a costumed tourist. One snapped a photo. Sailvera whispered, now the council knows. They will say a human groomed me in truth. Better than saying I married you in the manure pile, I said. They will say both, she corrected. And they did. By nightfall the feeds ran headlines, Human farmer claimed by royal runaway, barn ritual sparks interstellar crisis, and my personal favorite, pitchforks as wedding spears, experts alarmed. She read them with a grin that made the scandal worth it. They believe, Dane. Which means it is real. I shook my head. Back home, belief isn't law. Here, she said, settling beside me on the hay, law is the slowest belief. Yours is faster. Yours is dangerous. That is why I trust it. The barn went quiet but for breathing, mine ragged, hers steady. She leaned until her shoulder pressed mine, and for once I didn't joke, didn't stall. I just stayed. Her tail curled across my boot like a claim written without ink. Outside, the council scrambled. Inside, the groom learned he wanted the title more than he should. The scandal traveled faster than any tractor I ever coaxed to life. By dawn, tabloids across 3 systems screamed headlines about the barn marriage and my alleged conquest of vulpine royalty through straw, sweat, and unlicensed affection. The council's newsfeeds displayed my face beside a shovel like it was a crown. My neighbors thought it was a prank, then realized aliens don't prank with subcommittees. Sailvera sat on the hay bale, maneg glossy from the combing, tail swishing like punctuation to every absurd headline she read aloud. They think you claimed me with a pitchfork, she said, suppressing laughter. One commentator described it as a fertility lance. I was just cleaning tools, I said. And for the record, fertility was the last thing on my mind while ankle-deep in Menu. That makes the claim stronger, she teased. Sacrifice, labor, devotion to unpleasant tasks. It's practically a mating hymn. I groaned. So sweating and shoveling are now foreplay. Yes, she said firmly. The way you blushed when I leaned near, the way your shirt clung after work, those were sacred signals. They believe your body betrays desire. Humans sweat when nervous. Or when it's 90 degrees. That's not sacred, that's plumbing. To them, plumbing is seduction, she replied with a wicked glint. The feeds wouldn't stop. Analysts debated if barns were human temples. A Beatliard scholar insisted that hay was an aphrodisiac. One amphibian block submitted a motion to regulate blushing in diplomatic chambers. Another proposed a ban on curry combs as intimate grooming devices. I watched the absurdity spiral while Sailvera grew more amused by the minute. You're enjoying this, I accused. Of course, she said. I ran from a cage of silk and law. Now I sit in straw and scandal, and somehow I feel freer. You gave me that by looking at me as if I were not a treaty but a person. Her words stung in a good way, like salt cleaning a wound. You don't know me. I'm a man with a broken tractor and a worse mortgage. I'm not a hero. You are better, she said. You are flawed. Heroes in my world are flawless masks. You curse, you doubt, you sweat. You chose to see me when they wanted me stripped. That choice makes you dangerous. The silence that followed was heavier than any pitchfork. I busied myself adjusting tack straps, but my fingers betrayed a tremor. She placed her hand over mine, steadying it. You do not need to fix everything at once, she murmured. But you fix me each time you look without flinching. I swallowed hard, the barn too small for both the air and my chest. You make it sound easy. It is not easy, she said. That is why it matters. Before I could reply, the comm screen on the wall flickered alive. A panel of alien delegates filled the display, voices sharp as saw blades. Human Dane Calder, one hissed. You have violated interspecies law. You have bound a royal without sanction. I raised a brow. Pretty sure she bound me. I was just shoveling hay. Gasps echoed. Another delegate screeched, he admits it. He admits to coupling labor with courtship. Sailvera leaned into the frame, unashamed. Yes, I declared him my groom. And unlike your chosen stallion, he did not weigh me down with ownership. He lifted me with laughter. The feed exploded into accusations, motions, laughter, scandal. One gelatinous envoy moaned, humans corrupt ritual with comedy. It is indecent. It is intoxicating. I muttered under my breath, glad to know my sense of humor is now a war crime. Sailvera's tail brushed my knee, anchoring me. Let them choke on their laws, she whispered. They cannot legislate away what already happened. And she was right. No matter how many regulations they drafted, on staring, sweating, or grooming, the truth was baked into every whisper: a human farmer, a runaway heir, and a barn that became a sanctuary. Scandal, yes. But also something rawer, something that tasted a lot like love hidden beneath hay and laughter. When the feed cut, she stayed close, her voice softer now. They will not forgive this easily. You may lose your place in their eyes. I met her gaze, steady as I could manage. Then I'll stop living in their eyes. I'll live in yours. Her ears flicked, her cheeks lifted, and for the first time since she'd appeared in my barn, Sailvera looked less like a fugitive and more like someone found. The scandal outside could burn the galaxy down. Inside, between hay bales and bad wiring, we'd already built something the law couldn't touch. The council demanded our presence in their chamber, not with courtesy but with warrants. They sent a shuttle that looked more like a cage than transport, but I walked into it because running from law only feeds its appetite. Sailvera walked beside me, cloak brushing my arm, her tail swaying with the deliberate grace of someone who knew appearances cut deeper than words. By the time we stood before the tribunal, half the galaxy had already judged us guilty of scandal, comedy, or both. The lead delegate's crest flared like a fan sharpened into knives. Human Dane Calder, you are charged with undermining interspecies ritual, claiming royal blood through barn rites, and desecrating our sacred laws with your gaze. I wanted to laugh at how serious they made it sound. Instead, I shrugged. All I did was look at her without treating her like property. If that's a crime, then your laws are the problem, not me. Gasps rippled across the chamber. A Beatlia delegate rattled its wings. Blasphemy. He admits to gaze binding. Sailvera stepped forward, chin high, voice steady. He admits nothing more than seeing me as a person. That is what you fear, that a human farmer gave more dignity with his eyes than all your laws with their pages. The spores in the air picked up her defiance and spread it. Laughter infected some, outrage infected others. One amphibian slapped its gavel, declaring, barns must be regulated as sites of illicit nuptials. Another muttered about outlawing pitchforks as marital weapons. I raised my hand, tired but unwilling to bow. Go ahead. Ban barns, ban sweat, ban staring. Write it all down until your books collapse under their own weight. But you can't erase what happened. She came to me terrified, and I didn't look away. That's all. Humans don't look away when someone needs them. Maybe that's reckless, maybe it breaks your tidy protocols, but it's who we are. And maybe it's what you're missing. For a moment the chamber went still. Then chaos bloomed. Some shouted for exile. Some demanded sanctions. But some, just a few, nodded with the reluctant respect that grows when truth slips past armor. Sailvera crossed to me, ignoring their noise, and placed her hand over the wound I still carried. Her voice dropped but carried anyway. This man did not bind me with law. He bound me with choice. He gave me what none of you offered, freedom to be seen without shame. That is why I called him Groom. And that is why I will keep calling him Groom, whether your ledges permit it or not. The chamber fractured. Laughter spilled, furious arguments clashed, and somewhere a scribe muttered about drafting an anti-Groom treaty. But it no longer mattered. The verdict had been delivered the moment she stood beside me instead of beneath their law. When the session broke, and guards half-heartedly gestured us toward the exit, Sailvera leaned close, her words just for me. Still willing to carry this title, Dane Calder? Groom of barns, breaker of rules. I smiled despite the ache in my side. As long as you don't expect me to fix the tractor before vows. Her laugh cut through the chamber like a victory anthem. Then let the galaxy write new laws. We'll break the ones that deserve breaking. We walked out together, scandal trailing us like confetti. Behind us, The council tried to stitch dignity back into law, but they'd already lost it to something more human: loyalty, humor, and love grown in a barn. And for once, I didn't care what they wrote next. She had chosen me. I had chosen her. And no protocol in the galaxy could rewrite that.